Hello everybody, Chris here, and in this video I'm going to be showing all of you how to set up a text plus title in DaVinci Resolve, but using a Bezier curve path in order to determine where your title is going to display on the screen, so you can actually have text follow the path. So the first thing we're going to do, of course, is to add a text plus title onto our timeline. Open up the effects window, which will be down here. You'll see toolbox, come down to titles, and then find the text plus title. I'm just going to drag this onto video track 2, right above the underlying video clip, video track 1. So the text plus node sits right on top here. Then I'm going to take it and immediately go over to the Fusion page. So you can either click here at the bottom, or in the inspector, where we have video title text plus, you can come over here to the right and click on the jump to Fusion icon. So either way you do it, you're going to see this page where you have a template, the text plus, and media out over here to the right. So what we do from here is have the inspector open on the right and then go down to this layout page, click it. You'll see layout type point. We want to change that to path. So when we do that, if you move your cursor over to the left, it should turn into a crosshair, which is going to allow you to set your first point. So you should think of this as the position point 0 along your path for where your text might display. So if I click here, I add 1 point, you'll see 2 Bezier curve handles to the left and the right, which allow you to turn a straight line into a curve. For right now, let's go further over to the right and left click again. And then that will be the endpoint for this 2-point path. So if you just want it to be a simple line, this is pretty easy. You'll probably also notice at the top here, there is a whole bunch of path tools that you can switch to change how your interaction on this preview window is going to be. So for instance, I might want to go to modify only mode. You can see the hotkey for that is Shift M at the same time. Modify only is going to mean that we can't add extra points along the curve or anywhere else on the screen. We can only change the ones that exist right now. So I can left click on the points if I want to set the end point and the start point for our path. And this can be good for slanted text or that sort of thing. So as for the Bezier curves, if you left click on your main point and you click on one of the curves that come out of it, you can make it so that the path between 2 points is going to swerve around like this. If we take the position on path and we adjust it, we can change where the text is going to show along that path. And you can see if you get to the end of a path, if it's not a closed loop, it'll just keep going in the direction that the last point was going at. And then everything in between is going to be your actual path. Okay, so I'm going to click on this point, and now I'm going to go back to the append mode. So click append means if I left click, I add another point. So let's left click, and while I'm pressing and holding the left click, you can see I can drag around and modify these curve handles before I even let go and end that added point. So I can just put this wherever I want. If you want the curve to look a little bit more swervy, then let's use Shift M to go back to modify mode and click on here. And then we need to adjust this curve and the one before it. So you may want to adjust this curve, the length of the handles, and then that will change how it looks. Now you might think, okay, it doesn't look very great. It's not smooth at all. So there's actually an option up here to smooth out a point. So if you click over here for smooth, then you can see that makes the path between these points a lot nicer. So if I go back to click append mode and I add a whole bunch more points, eventually we might get to the point where we want to complete a loop. So when I'm ready to complete the loop, I can just left click over here at the starting point. And now we have a path that goes around in circles. So if I was to increase the position on path further, you can see it'll just keep looping as the position on path goes above 1.0. So 1.0 would be 100% of the way on the path. And as I was mentioning, we might want to curve out these paths a little bit more. So you can use the smooth option to make it a bit more rounded. It can be a lot easier to do this than to freehand it. And I think if you keep doing it to everything, you're going to end up with something like a oval. So if we select everything all at once and then we do smooth, you can see it's very close to a egg or a oval shape. So yeah, something like that. If you decide you want more points, you can always go back to click append mode. And when you're in this mode and you click on the line somewhere, it's actually going to add another point. So now that I just clicked on the path between 2 points, I can move around this new point. I can left click over here and add another point. Let's select these 3 because they look kind of bad and use the smooth option to round things a little bit. It's not going to make it perfect. You'll still need to adjust things and move around the handles manually, but it can be a bit of a time saver at least. So I've talked about this position on path setting. Let's show how you can animate it. So let's start the value of it at 0.0, and I'm going to move this frame selector to the start. So this is frame 0 of the clip. And let's do a keyframe diamond over here where it says position on path. Go to the diamond, click it, and it should turn red. So we've set the value to be 0, 0 at that point. And now let's go to a point in the future, like let's say 125. And let's change the position on path to be 1.0. So just type 1, hit enter. You'll see the keyframe diamond turns red again. So that means that the second keyframe has been set, and now it will animate between those two time places and values. And now let's go to frame 0 and hit play, and you'll see that our text is now following the path across the screen as we instructed by animating the position on path. If you wanted this to be more of a loop, then just make sure that the value keeps changing up to the last point. So I'm actually going to move this keyframe to the end. So let's go to the end and keyframe 1.0 here. Go back here to frame 125 and unkeyframe it. So now it'll take a little longer to get to frame 149. But that's going to mean that on all of the frames, it's going to be animating this position on path. And as it keeps looping, well, you can see it's just going to keep going around in a circle. So let's show another tool. If you want the paths coming in and out of a point to be a straight line, at least on one side of the entire path, select the point and hit linear. So if I unselect it now, you can see that when it gets to this point, it's very straight. There's still the curve handles on the adjacent points, so the line isn't completely straight unless I select another point and I hit linear. When I do that for 2 points, now you can see there's a perfectly straight line between these two. So I could select all of the points and make it linear. And then now it's just going to be something like a simple polygon shape where the path between everything is straight and we don't really have any curve handles that are affecting anything. So you'd have to actually pull this to be outside of the initial line if you want it to curve on one or both sides. After playing around with it, you may also decide that your path just has too many points. It's too complicated and unnecessarily so. So what you can do is you can take a point and you can click on delete points up here or the delete key on your keyboard. So that'll just mean that the adjacent points will now be directly connected to each other without that extra point in between. So it's going to simplify the shape as you remove points like this, which might make it less interesting, but it does also make it easier to edit. So now I can just move around the remaining points to get the path I want. So more complexity isn't always a good thing. And if I decide I don't like the straight lines, remember we can always select everything and go back to a smooth to kind of curve it between our points. Another way of editing your points is to select more than one at the same time, which you can just drag a box around. So here I have 3, and then let's click on Shape Box. So this is going to create a box between your points. So if you stretch the sides now, you're going to be controlling all 3 of the points' location and the distance between them all at once. So this could be kind of helpful if you're trying to create a specific shape and a specific size. So if I just keep pulling down here, it kind of turns into something like a slime or a hat, something like that. But the advantage here is you can kind of modify multiple points at once, and the values are all going to be tied together with this relation of the box. So for instance, if I click clips up here and let's switch to the PNG. So once you have your path set up how you want it to be and you've animated it, you can edit the title settings just like you would normally. So change the rest of your title like normal, add the text you want, change the font and the size. And that's pretty much all you have to do to get your text to show up and follow a path inside of DaVinci Resolve 17. So I hope that this tutorial has been a solid introduction into the path tools inside of DaVinci Resolve and how you can use them, with titles specifically. Thanks for watching to the end. I've been Chris, and I will see all of you in my future video content.